The Time Ripper was defeated, and this is the aftermath of that battle, and indeed the investigation. After a lengthy battle, and despite the Time Ripper's best efforts, their time was spent. There was no more fight in the defeated Distortion, although they were still alive. The assistant asked if only he had 10 more minutes, no, a minute, a few more seconds. I could have changed so much more if only I had more time. He thought that once. The Time Ripper asked, what did he do? Did he even try to change anything? The assistant claimed that he was the creator of everything he saw around him. The Time Ripper was silently surprised by this. The assistant told him that he was aware of the burning question, what changes? Because in the end, District 20 was no different from other nests. Places of torment, only just better than the back streets. Much pain was there, no different than anywhere else in the city. It was just a different flavour of torment. He saw only one way to truly be free from suffering. Stopping time. Dante didn't know what he meant by that. The assistant was clearly bitter at something. And that made it difficult to understand. Even if they asked, and the others were watching over the Time Ripper. The LCA Special Operations arrived, and then, after discussing a few things with the assistant, they labelled the Distortion as the Time Ripper with a complicated classification code, and took them away somewhere. The case was then closed, but then we see Bumble, who had his vanity project, a huge portrait of himself hanging near the workforce as they slowly worked on making watches, timepieces, identification and wallets. He was so happy that the Time Ripper was caught by them, only caring about his wonderful portrait and complaining about how slow everyone was, calling them lazy and telling them to get back to work, not caring that their lack of time wasn't their fault. As if he couldn't be any more disgusting. There are a number of reasons why the workforce doesn't rise up and go on strike. 1. He could fire them on the spot. 2. Unions are demonized so much in that world that it would make American attitudes towards unions seem friendly. 3. They lacked the time to go on strike. Dante understood that the assistant was right on this occasion. Nothing changed. At least, nothing that mattered. In the collections office, Rodia asked why did Honglu volunteer to be bait for the Time Ripper. She was scared that her own time would be ripped away. Honglu just wanted to understand, because the world was full of things that he didn't understand. He still understood so little. Why do people hang on desperately to something like time? Something that doesn't last. Well, to some, time is all they have. I can certainly speak from personal experience. Rodia understood that much. Honglu knew one thing. and Roger understood that she was dealing with something that wasn't fear. That wasn't holding her back, even though the fear was there. It was a different side of her that allowed her to understand him. It's why she didn't attack. Roger wanted to know how he knew that. Honglu told her that it was because she was watched by him. He didn't resist when his siblings tried to kill him for the first time. Wait, hang on! First time?! Seriously, Honglu, your family is seriously up. Jia Huan clearly had orders to stay his hand in District 4. And clearly someone in his family prevented him and the others from succeeding. Otherwise, Honglu wouldn't be there. Honglu wasn't scared. He felt as though he could understand them. Ryushu saw it as fear growing so extreme that it circles back to its origin. A moment so precious and beautiful. At that point, a reporter told all involved in the case to gather around. This excited Don Quixote, as the reporter announced that they'll be running a special feature on the people who played the biggest parts or role in solving the case of time-killing time, which includes a group photo, asking the ace detectives if it's alright. Don Quixote seeing this day as auspicious. Roger wasn't so sure. Dante noticed this and asked Roger if she's alright. Roger wasn't sure if she deserved to be in that picture, as she didn't feel that she did anything. Honglu pointed out that they eventually captured the Time Ripper. It was only possible because they all worked together. Dante saw that every one of them four did good work. She found her part in this to be debatable. She cowered as soon as she was face to face with the Time Ripper. Seeing her reaction to be ridiculous, Honglu said that all great detectives were flanked by great assistants. Roger asked if that's what Agatha said. Honglu then said that it was him. Roger was silent at this. Ryushi told them that she was the only one that was allowed to make that LF. Lame farce? Telling the detective to smile, she faked that smile as she wasn't feeling it. The reporter told them to huddle a little closer together. Roger asked what right did she have to stop those struggling to change things, no matter how small, when she hasn't done anything. She whispered this, but only Dante could hear this. Then the reporter took the image and Don Quixote found herself in that, but motion blurred that image. Then Mai told the executive director that it was time. Then the executive director, who was with them all this time, appeared in a blue suit and matching top hat, as if he was Willy Wonka feeling like a change of style, who thanked Mai for letting him borrow his clothes. He made sure not to let even a speck of dust on it, so no need to wash it. Dante was confused. The executive director thanked a participation trophy for an exciting day, one that's... It's been a while since he's had. It turned out that he was a hands-on managerial type, wanting an outside company perspective. Dante asked if he should be thanking them for solving the case. The executive director saw this as a sign that he was competent. Well, Dante was competent at battlefield command. Then there was their time inversion ability. They were actually an exceptional award. or even a distinctive reward. Since their powers can't be explained, the clock seemed special, but the time that flowed didn't seem different from the concept of time that he's used to. He has no prize money to hand out, but he gave a tip, telling Dante that using that power comes at a cost. It's a pain for them as well. He also thanked them for making his dream flow once more. Well, Dante already knew the cost of using his powers, or their powers. Well, they were aware of this every time they turned back the clock and received whatever pain whichever of the damned dozen experienced upon death, or at the very least received a serious injury. On the day that he ventured out to the edge and wished upon a star, he thought that his dream to have ceased there, never to flow again. He would have wished for something different had he had the chance to do so, but he believed that he used that chance. And this reminded Dante of the star that they saw when making a pact with Task Force Damned, and possibly the star that the child that would be the source of K-Corp's singularity made a wish on to some powerful beings in the Outreach, where what that child would become would be that which Stefanette and later Alfonso would utilize, one less ethically than the other. The executive director used to think that the star could never be linked again. That time was time that couldn't be turned back, seeing himself as a vile man that knew when dreams come to an end, where there's no path for it to go. He then saw himself as wrong, as he saw Dante rewinding time in a way that he couldn't consider, yet it wasn't exactly rewinding time, but it was still something to potentially look into. The Time Ripper was another proof that he didn't understand everything about time. Not yet. His dream was a lake, now it's a rushing river. Dante's indifferent, unafraid attitude towards time left him with an impression. He thinks every day how uncaring time is. It will drift on even after he died. He thinks how that's so terrifying. He fears death, but he's uninterested in reaching immortality. The flow of time is constant change. Those that dare to try to evade death and annihilation will soon find themselves right at what they sought to flee from in the first place. To stem the chance where perpetual change itself is tied to the flow of time is to stop it. Until time is stopped, all change will flow on. Dante was struggling to understand this, and Faust translated this to the executive director, who apologized as he was thinking out loud. He forgot who he was talking to, when the listener had nothing to say in response but ticks and tocks. That and seeing it as too much for a manager of an upstart business to understand. Faust then asked if this concluded the business of the 10 billion and 40 million in time tax. The executive director told them that they were exempt, then asked could they imagine what would have happened if that case didn't exist. They might have spent the rest of their lives stretching 4 hours in a single day. 1 nap later and 2 days would have passed. And that's assuming that the 4 hours a day minimum applied to them. Faust found that difficult to believe, but she understood. It almost slipped his mind as he entered his limo, asking if he remembered asking Faust if she remembered the purchase catalogue Limbus company handed him. The monolith caught his attention. He wanted to purchase that, as many as they have in stock. What the? He wants to buy a device that forces distortion? Did he not know of the trouble that caused in the back streets? I question the ethics of Limbus company even in that universe. Virgilius was silent. The executive director saw that as a sale made. It was pricey. It might get them accommodation or whatever it is. Faust told them that his intent to purchase will be relayed. Virgilius then asked what he was planning to do with that. He responded that it was a secret. It's something yet to be realized, and so must be shrouded in hearts under a starry sky, telling his assistant Mai that they need to go, who referred to him as Director Hubert, and they drove off. So, Executive Director Hubert is a more hands-on managerial type, and one that actually cares about the problems of District 20. Most others, like Alfonso, either don't understand that, or they do and simply don't care. Idealism and moral integrity are rare in the Project Moon universe. That's even more so with the corporate types. Individuals in the wings, like Director Hubert and Stefanitz, when she was in charge of K-Corps, and fixers such as Xiao and Kali, the Red Mist, are the more idealistic of them the most. On the other end of the spectrum are those that are selfish holes at best and pure evil at worst. The selfish holes at best are Roland, the Black Stain, and Ian, the CEO of Lobotomy Corporation. And the pure evil is Alfonso, the current K-Corp CEO, and Argalia, the Blue Sicko. Hubert is one of those corpos that isn't self-serving scum, even if he is a bit eccentric and reckless. Once they were alone once more, Virgilius told Faust that he saw Limbus company as growing increasingly bizarre. They're providing distortion management service, but also selling artifacts like the monolith. Faust was silent at this. Virgilius then told her that he didn't believe that the monolith should be so easily bought or sold. They should retrieve them, yes, but not put them up for sale, asking if she understood what selling artifacts that can force distortion could lead to. Faust told him that there's much technology that's capable of maiming or slaughtering others, even if not all of them was intended with that aim in mind. Most began as an altruistic project for the betterment of others. Yes. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Virgilius asked if she really believed this to be a matter that she can brush aside with. She then called him by name, which implied that he needed to stop this line of conversation, which he did long enough to listen to what she had to say, telling him that he knows her place, as does his own. They're not provided with the luxury of choice. He couldn't argue back. He's already in trouble with the higher-ups with his actions in the basement in Wuthering Heights. He likely didn't want to make things worse. Faust told him that they'll both reach what they desire, telling him it's a guarantee. He decided to put this aside for now. Then they got back on the bus and continued their journey. Roger realized that Don Quixote was framing the front page of the newspaper with their photograph since they returned. Roger was moving between the others, talking to them about whatever they were interested in. Don Quixote saw this achievement to be memorialized, Yi Sang asking if she intends to put it up on display. Don Quixote ironed out the creases of the front page and coating it in a thin film and displaying it carefully in a frame. She was happy to be part of the photograph, even if they could barely tell it was her due to motion blurring. She desired to hang it there for all to see. It had great meaning, her first accomplishment, which was why she placed it in her chamber for safekeeping. Gregor wasn't that impressed about her excitement about a shaky picture of herself. Roger told Gregor not to be a buzzkill. Don Quixote was happy about it. That's all that matters. Don Quixote saw it as a signifier of her achievements. This made Roger uncertain, and not because of Don Quixote believing that. Roger was creating an illusion that everything was fine. Dante wasn't fooled. Her cheerfulness was clearly an act, which pained Dante's heart. Yet they could do nothing about this. All they could do is divert the attention to something else, by asking Faust to ask Virgilius where they were headed next. Faust did so, because at least when talking about that, the past is focused on less, even for a short time. Virgilius understood that it was about time that Dante asked about that, which proved them right, as they wanted to find out where they were headed next. He told them about their next destination, and it was more than Dante bargained for, as it was a warp train. This caused a brown alert to happen, as those that have W Corp identities, they know what goes on in them. Considering that all but first class are exposed to many centuries of hell due to T-Corp tech taking in the time, which also prevents death by dehydration, starvation, or even mutilation. It might as well be called a crazy train. And the warp train stationed in District 20 is where Mephistopheles is heading. And if it's one that's big enough for Mephistopheles to fit in, then that might mean that their next destination might not be District 19, the home district of Yi Sang, which is highly corrupt even by the city standards. It could be anywhere that they haven't already been. Anyway, they have something to do involving a warp train before they can deal with the next Golden Bar retrieval. So in Chapter 6.5, the second half, as a certain foul-mouthed frontman from Birmingham, England would put it, all aboard! Sorry, I couldn't help myself. It's good that we've learned a little more about District 20, and what we do know about it now is worse than we thought. Until next time, hail the rabbit!